In the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, where dreams are born and ambitions soar, there lived a woman named Selena. She wasn't just any woman. She was a go-getter, someone who had built her own beauty empire from scratch. Her journey hadn't been easy. Sleepless nights, endless sacrifices, and countless rejections had shaped her into the confident, successful person she was today. But despite all her achievements, Selena still carried one dream in her heart: owning a luxury car. For years she'd saved every penny, worked tirelessly, and poured her soul into her business. Now, finally, it felt like the right time to reward herself. She wanted a sleek black Mercedes-Benz S-Class, a symbol of elegance and success. The thought of driving, it made her smile. It would be more than just a car. It would be proof of how far she'd come. On a crisp Saturday morning, dressed in a sharp navy blue pantsuit that hugged her figure perfectly, Selena stepped out of her modest sedan with excitement bubbling inside her. Her heels clicked against the pavement as she walked toward Prestige Motors, an upscale dealership known for its high-end vehicles. As she entered the showroom, glass walls gleamed around her, reflecting rows of shiny cars under bright lights. It was exactly what she imagined, a place where dreams came true. But within seconds, something didn't feel quite right. The air seemed heavy, almost unwelcoming. Salespeople buzzed about, attending to customers here and there, but none of them approached her. They glanced at her briefly, then turned away as if she weren't even standing there. At first, Selena brushed it off, thinking maybe they were busy or hadn't noticed her yet. After all, she looked polished and ready to spend some serious money. Surely someone would walk up soon. Minutes passed, and still, no one came. Instead, she watched as another customer, a man in casual jeans and sneakers, was greeted warmly by a salesperson almost immediately. He was offered coffee, shown around the showroom, and treated like royalty. Another couple, this time white, walked in behind her, and again, the staff rushed over, smiling and nodding enthusiastically. Yet Selena remained invisible, standing quietly amidst the gleaming cars, feeling smaller with each passing moment. Her stomach churned, but she refused to let doubt creep in. Determined not to leave without answers, she decided to take matters into her own hands. Spotting a salesperson leaning casually against a counter, scrolling through his phone, Selena approached him with a polite smile. "Hi," she said brightly, trying to sound friendly despite the growing unease in her chest. "I'm interested in the S-Class over there." She pointed toward the glossy black sedan that had captured her imagination. The man barely looked up from his screen. When he finally did, his eyes scanned her quickly, taking in her appearance before settling on her face with a dismissive expression. Without cracking a smile, he replied curtly, "That model starts at $120,000. Are you sure you want to waste my time?" His words hit her like a punch to the gut. Time froze for a split second. Was he serious? Did he really think she couldn't afford it? Sure, she wasn't dressed in designer labels or dripping in gold jewelry, but her confidence and demeanor should have spoken louder than any outfit. Hurt mixed with anger bubbled inside her, but Selena forced herself to stay calm. She explained firmly that she was ready to buy and had done her research. This wasn't a casual visit. It was a decision she'd been planning for months. Still, the salesperson didn't budge. If anything, his attitude worsened. With a condescending smirk, he suggested she look elsewhere, implying she wouldn't find anything suitable here. Then, without missing a beat, he turned his attention to the next customer, a young white couple who had just walked in, and welcomed them warmly, offering them refreshments and guiding them toward the very same car Selena had been admiring. Standing there, ignored and belittled, Selena felt a wave of emotions crash over her. Embarrassment, frustration, anger, but most of all, disbelief. How could someone judge her so harshly based on nothing more than their assumptions? It wasn't just about the car anymore. It was about being treated like she didn't belong, like her presence was somehow less valuable than others. And deep down, she knew this wasn't the first time such a thing had happened to her, because of the color of her skin. As she stood frozen, watching the salesperson laugh and chat with the couple, Selena realized this wasn't going to end well. But little did she know, This humiliating experience would set off a chain of events that would change everything. For her, for the dealership, and for countless others watching closely from afar. Selina stood there, rooted to the spot, her mind racing with a mix of emotions. The salesperson's dismissive tone echoed in her ears. "That model starts at $120,000. Are you sure you want to waste my time?" It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. His words dripped with condescension, as if he'd already decided she didn't belong in this shiny, luxurious world of high-end cars. And now, watching him fawn over the couple who had walked in after her felt like salt being rubbed into an open wound. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. This wasn't the first time Selina had faced judgment based on her appearance, or the color of her skin, but that didn't make it any easier to swallow. She reminded herself of who she was, a woman who had built an empire from the ground up, someone who worked hard every single day to provide for her family and inspire others. Yet here she was, being treated like she wasn't good enough to even browse the cars she could easily afford. Determined not to let this man or anyone else diminish her worth, Selina decided to take action. She approached the salesperson again, this time with more resolve in her voice. "Listen," she said firmly, looking him straight in the eye. "I'm serious about buying a car today. I've done my research and I know exactly what I want. Can we focus on that instead of wasting time with assumptions?" The salesperson barely glanced at her before brushing her off once more. "Ma'am, I think you should look somewhere else," he replied curtly, his tone dripping with arrogance. "This isn't really your scene." His words stung, cutting deeper than she cared to admit. For a moment, Selina considered walking out right then and there, but something inside her refused to give up. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was resilience, or maybe it was simply the fact that she deserved better. Whatever it was, she knew she couldn't leave without addressing this blatant disrespect. "I'd like to speak to your manager," she demanded, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. The salesperson rolled his eyes but eventually shuffled off to fetch someone higher up. As she waited, Selina noticed the stares from other staff members and customers. Some looked curious, while others seemed amused by the situation. It made her feel even smaller, like she was on display for everyone to judge. When the manager finally appeared, things only got worse. He was a tall, older man with slicked-back hair and a suit that screamed authority, or at least that's what he probably thought. Instead of apologizing or addressing her concerns, he smirked down at her and said loud enough for nearby customers to hear, "Look, sweetheart, we don't have time for window shoppers here. Maybe try somewhere else." The comment sent shockwaves through the room. Whispers erupted among the staff and patrons, and Selina felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. Her heart pounded in her chest, torn between wanting to cry and wanting to scream. How dare they treat her this way? How dare they assume they knew anything about her life, her success, or her ability to buy whatever she wanted? For a brief moment, Selina considered arguing further, demanding respect and answers. But the weight of the situation pressed down on her, making it clear that nothing she said would change their minds. These people had already judged her, written her off as someone unworthy of their attention. Fighting back tears, she grabbed her purse and turned toward the exit, vowing never to step foot in this dealership again. As she walked out, the sound of laughter followed her, soft chuckles from the staff, muffled but unmistakable. It was as if they found humor in humiliating her, in dismissing her dreams and aspirations. Each step away from the showroom felt heavier than the last, but Selina kept moving forward. She climbed into her modest sedan, gripping the steering wheel tightly, as tears spilled onto her cheeks. Driving home, Selina replayed the scene in her head over and over. The dismissive looks, the snide comments, the outright disrespect, it all boiled down to one thing: prejudice. They hadn't seen her as a potential customer. They'd seen her as someone who didn't fit their idea of wealth or success. It was infuriating, heartbreaking, and exhausting all at once. But amidst the pain, a spark of determination began to grow within her. Selina knew she couldn't let this incident go unanswered. She had fought too hard in life to be treated this way, and she wasn't about to let anyone silence her voice. Little did she know this moment of injustice would ignite a firestorm bigger than she could have ever imagined. And karma was closer than anyone realized. By the time she pulled into her driveway, Selena had made up her mind. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about standing up for herself and everyone else who had ever been treated unfairly because of the color of their skin or the clothes they wore. And as she sat in her car, wiping away the last of her tears, she reached for her phone. What happened next would send ripples far beyond the walls of that dealership. When Selena finally got home, her emotions were still raw. The encounter at the dealership replayed in her mind like a bad movie she couldn't turn off. She felt angry, hurt, and humiliated. But most of all, she felt powerless, like she had been stripped of her dignity in front of strangers who didn't even know her. But as she sat on her couch staring at her phone, an idea began to form. If they thought she was just another faceless person to dismiss, they were wrong. Selena wasn't just anyone. She was someone with a voice, and she intended to use it. Selena opened Instagram, where she had built a loyal following over the years. Her platform was more than just a place to share photos. It was a space where she connected with people, shared her journey, and inspired others to chase their dreams. Tonight, though, she wasn't going to post about beauty tips or entrepreneurship. This time, she wanted to tell her truth. She typed out a long caption, pouring her heart into every word. She described the incident in detail: the dismissive salesperson, the condescending manager, the whispers and laughter that followed her as she left. She included screenshots of the dealership's website, which proudly advertised slogans like, "Customer satisfaction is our priority," and "We treat everyone with respect." The irony wasn't lost on her. To drive her point home, she added pictures of herself standing outside the dealership earlier that day, looking polished and confident despite the treatment she'd received. Before hitting post, Selena hesitated. Sharing something so personal online always carried risks. What if people didn't believe her? What if trolls came after her with hateful comments? But then she reminded herself why she was doing this. It wasn't just about her. It was for everyone who had ever been treated unfairly because of how they looked, spoke, or dressed. With a deep breath, she pressed share. Within minutes, the post blew up. Notifications flooded her phone. Likes, comments, shares. People were outraged on her behalf, calling out the dealership for its blatant discrimination. Followers began sharing their own stories of being judged or mistreated because of their race, gender, or socioeconomic status. Some posted screenshots of similar reviews left by other customers, painting a pattern of behavior that went beyond Selena's experience. It quickly became clear that hers wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a much bigger problem. By morning, the story had gone viral. Local news outlets picked up on the post, running headlines like "Luxury Dealership Accused of Racial Discrimination" and "Black Woman Humiliated While Trying to Buy Dream Car." Influencers and activists joined the conversation, amplifying Selena's message and demanding accountability from Prestige Motors. Hashtags like "Just Respect for Selena" and "Eyes on Justice" at the dealership started trending, turning what happened to her into a national conversation about racism and bias in corporate America. But the backlash didn't stop there. Protesters gathered outside the dealership holding signs that read, "Shame on Prestige, end systemic racism now." Videos of the demonstration spread across social media, showing crowds chanting and honking car horns in solidarity with Selena. Calls poured into the dealership, overwhelming the staff with complaints and demands for action. Customers canceled appointments, and some even returned recently purchased vehicles, saying they no longer wanted to support a company that treated people so poorly. Inside the dealership, chaos erupted. Employees scrambled to respond to the flood of angry messages and calls. Managers huddled in back offices, frantically brainstorming ways to contain the damage. One executive suggested issuing a generic apology, hoping it would calm the storm. Another proposed offering Selena a free car as a peace offering, but no one seemed to understand the depth of the issue. This wasn't just about one bad interaction. It was about years of systemic prejudice baked into the culture of the business. Meanwhile, Selena watched it all unfold from her living room, scrolling through updates on her phone. Part of her felt vindicated, knowing she wasn't alone in this fight. But another part of her still wrestled with the pain of that day. No amount of likes or shares could erase the humiliation she'd felt when those salespeople dismissed her, or the sting of hearing them laugh behind her back. Still, seeing the outpouring of support gave her strength. For the first time since leaving the dealership, she allowed herself to smile. Then, late that evening, Selena received a direct message on Instagram. It was from a billionaire tech mogul known for his advocacy work and commitment to racial equality. His name wasn't important. What mattered was the sincerity in his words. He expressed admiration for how gracefully she handled the situation and offered to help however he could. At first, Selena was skeptical. Why would someone so powerful care about her story? But as she read his message again, she realized he wasn't offering pity. He was offering partnership. He ended the message with a simple question. What can we do to make sure this never happens to anyone else? Selena stared at the screen, her heart racing. In that moment, she knew this was bigger than her dream car. This was about justice, fairness, and holding people accountable for their actions. And thanks to the power of social media and a little bit of karma, she now had the tools to make real change happen. As she typed out her response, she couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready. Karma might have taken its sweet time arriving, but when it did, it came with reinforcements, and tomorrow, it would roll in style. By the time Selena woke up the next morning, her phone was buzzing nonstop. Notifications poured in from every direction: texts, calls, emails, and social media alerts. Her post had exploded overnight, turning into a full-blown movement. People were rallying behind her, sharing their outrage and demanding justice. Local news channels were running segments about the incident, and hashtags like John and Respect for Selena and Not Her Accountability Now were trending nationwide. It was surreal to see how quickly her personal story had resonated with so many people. But as she scrolled through the updates, Selena noticed something else: a shift in tone. While most comments were supportive, some questioned whether she was exaggerating or seeking attention. A few trolls even accused her of fabricating the entire story for clout. Reading those hurtful remarks stung, but Selena reminded herself of one thing. Haters always came with the territory when you stood up for what was right. She chose not to engage, focusing instead on the overwhelming wave of positivity that drowned out the negativity. Meanwhile, Prestige Motors was drowning in its own mess. The dealership's management team scrambled to issue a public apology, hoping to quell the growing backlash. They sent out an email blast claiming the incident was an isolated misunderstanding and promising better training for staff. But no one bought it, not after leaked footage surfaced online showing employees laughing about Selena's visit later that day. In the video, one worker joked about how she probably couldn't even afford the tire rims, while another chimed in saying, like, good riddance. The clip went viral almost instantly, sparking even more outrage. Viewers slammed the dealership for its blatant disrespect and lack of accountability. Protesters outside grew louder, chanting slogans like, "Shame on you," and holding signs that read, "Racism has no place here." Cars honked in solidarity as the crowd swelled, drawing attention from passers-by and media outlets alike. The once glamorous showroom now looked like a scene from a protest rally, complete with reporters camped out front and live broadcasts airing across multiple platforms. Back at home, Selena watched the chaos unfold with mixed emotions. On one hand, she felt vindicated knowing the truth was finally coming to light. On the other hand, seeing the leaked video reignited the pain she'd felt that day. Hearing strangers mock her behind her back made her stomach churn all over again. Still, she refused to let bitterness consume her. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about making sure no one else had to endure the same treatment. Later that afternoon, Selena met with the tech billionaire who had reached out to her. He introduced himself simply as a supporter and admirer of her courage. Over coffee, he explained his plan to hold Prestige Motors accountable, not just through words but through action. Using his connections and resources, he revealed he had quietly acquired a controlling stake in the parent company that owned the dealership. The news stunned Selena. This wasn't just a billionaire throwing money around. This was someone using his influence to create real change. He laid out his vision: a complete overhaul of the dealership's leadership, mandatory diversity training for all employees, and the establishment of a scholarship fund aimed at supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs in the automotive industry, and he wanted Selena to lead the charge. "You're the face of this movement," he told her earnestly. "People trust you because they see themselves in your story. Together we can turn this painful experience into something meaningful." Selena listened intently, her mind racing with possibilities. At first she hesitated. Taking on such a massive responsibility felt daunting, especially since she hadn't signed up for any of this. But deep down, she knew she couldn't walk away. If she didn't step up, who would? This was her chance to make sure her voice and the voices of countless others was heard loud and clear. The next morning, Atlanta buzzed with anticipation. Word had spread like wildfire that something big was about to happen at Prestige Motors. Social media posts hinted at Selena's return, teasing her arrival in a Rolls-Royce Phantom gifted by the tech billionaire. Supporters gathered outside the dealership early, armed with signs, cameras, and determination. News vans lined the street, reporters ready to capture every moment of what promised to be a dramatic showdown. Inside the dealership, chaos reigned. Employees whispered nervously among themselves, unsure of how to handle the growing crowd outside. Managers paced back and forth, their faces pale with anxiety. Calls from corporate headquarters poured in, demanding answers and solutions, but none of them seemed prepared for what was coming. The leaked video of employees mocking Selena had done irreparable damage, and the public wasn't letting up. Every attempt at damage control only fueled the fire further. Meanwhile, Selena got ready for the day ahead. She chose a bold red dress that hugged her curves perfectly, paired with gold accessories that caught the light with every move she made. Her hair was styled sleek and polished, her makeup flawless. This wasn't just about looking good, it was about showing up as her most confident, unapologetic self. Today, she wasn't the woman who had been humiliated. She was the woman who refused to be silenced. As she stepped out of her house, the chauffeur held open the door of the Rolls-Royce Phantom. Cameras flashed immediately, capturing her every step. Supporters cheered, clapping and shouting words of encouragement. Some held up signs that read, "We stand with you," and "Justice for Selena." The energy was electric, a mix of excitement and defiance. For many, this moment represented more than just one woman's fight. It symbolized the struggle against systemic racism and prejudice that so many had faced silently for years. When the Rolls-Royce pulled up to Prestige Motors, the scene was nothing short of cinematic. A sea of people surrounded the car, chanting and applauding as Selena stepped out. Dressed to command attention, she exuded grace and power, her presence impossible to ignore. Reporters jostled for position, microphones thrust forward as they shouted questions, but Selena didn't say a word, not yet. Instead, she walked straight into the dealership, flanked by the billionaire tech mogul and his legal team. Inside, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Staff members froze, their eyes wide with shock as they watched Selena glide past them like royalty. Gone was the dismissive attitude. They now scrambled to figure out why she had returned and what she planned to do next. It didn't take long for the general manager to appear, his face flushed with panic. "Ms. Carter," he stammered, extending a hand that Selena ignored completely. With cameras rolling and reporters streaming live updates, Selena addressed the room. Her voice was calm but firm, each word dripping with purpose. "Yesterday, I came here hoping to buy a car, a dream I've worked hard for my entire life. Instead, I was met with disrespect, mockery, and prejudice. You judged me based on your assumptions, not on who I am or what I'm capable of." She paused, letting Her words sink in before continuing. Today I'm back, not as a customer, but as someone demanding accountability. I filed a lawsuit against this dealership for discrimination, backed by evidence collected during my visit and subsequent investigations. Gasps rippled through the room as employees exchanged nervous glances. Then came the bombshell. The tech billionaire stepped forward, taking the microphone from Selina. With a steely gaze, he announced, "Effective immediately, I now own a controlling stake in the parent company of this dealership. Changes will be made, starting with leadership. Those responsible for fostering this toxic environment will be held accountable." The room fell silent. Employees looked around, fear etched on their faces. The general manager tried to protest, but his words were drowned out by the weight of the situation. Within minutes, security escorted him and several others out of the building, their careers crumbling before their eyes. Outside, the crowd erupted in cheers. Supporters hugged one another, tears streaming down their faces as they celebrated this small but significant victory. For too long, stories like Selina's had gone unheard, dismissed as isolated incidents. But today, justice had arrived, and it came in style. As Selina left the dealership, she stopped to address the crowd. "This isn't just about me," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "It's about all of us standing together to say enough is enough. Respect isn't optional, it's required. And if you won't give it freely, karma will deliver it for you." With that, she climbed back into the Rolls-Royce, waving to the cheering crowd as the car drove away. The battle wasn't over, but one thing was clear. Selina Carter had proven that no matter how much they tried to diminish her, true worth could never be erased, and sometimes revenge rolled in on four wheels. The fallout from Selina's dramatic return to Prestige Motors was swift and merciless. By the time she left the dealership in her Rolls-Royce, the world was watching and judging. The leaked footage of employees mocking her had already painted a damning picture, but seeing their panicked faces as they were escorted out added fuel to the fire. Social media exploded with reactions, ranging from satisfaction to demands for even stricter consequences. For many, this wasn't just about one bad day at a luxury car showroom. It was proof that accountability could no longer be ignored. Inside Prestige Motors, panic set in. Employees who hadn't been fired yet walked on eggshells, unsure if they'd be next. Some tried to distance themselves from the scandal, claiming they had nothing to do with what happened. Others quietly updated their resumes, knowing the reputation of the dealership and possibly their careers was beyond repair. Customers canceled orders, while others demanded refunds for vehicles they'd recently purchased. Calls flooded. The corporate office, each one angrier than the last. It was clear Prestige Motors was drowning in its own mess. Corporate headquarters didn't waste any time responding. They issued another apology, this time more detailed and contrite, promising sweeping changes to ensure such an incident would never happen again. But actions spoke louder than words, and thanks to the tech billionaire's intervention, those actions came quickly. Within days, the general manager and several key staff members were officially terminated. Their dismissals weren't quiet affairs. News outlets covered every detail, exposing internal emails and texts that showed just how deeply rooted the discriminatory culture was within the company. But firing a few individuals wasn't going to cut it, not when the problem ran so much deeper. Under the tech billionaire's leadership, the parent company announced a complete overhaul of the dealership's operations. First on the agenda, mandatory diversity training for all employees, not just at Prestige Motors, but across every branch, nationwide. Consultants were brought in to assess workplace practices, identify biases, and create policies that prioritized inclusivity and respect. Staff members attended workshops where they learned firsthand how harmful stereotypes and assumptions could destroy lives and businesses. Selina played a pivotal role in shaping these reforms. She worked closely with the tech billionaire and his team to design initiatives aimed at creating lasting change. One of her proudest achievements was the launch of a scholarship fund specifically for underrepresented entrepreneurs looking to enter the automotive industry. The program provided financial support, mentorship and resources to help aspiring business owners break barriers and succeed in a field often dominated by privilege. It was a way to turn pain into purpose, ensuring that her experience wouldn't just fade into memory but would instead spark opportunities for others. As the weeks passed, the public began to see tangible results. Protesters outside the dealership slowly dispersed, satisfied that justice was being served. News coverage shifted from outrage to cautious optimism, highlighting the steps being taken to rebuild trust. Even some former critics admitted that, maybe, just maybe, the company was serious about change this time. For Selena, though, the journey wasn't without its challenges. Adjusting to her newfound fame wasn't easy. Strangers approached her everywhere she went, wanting to share their own stories or thank her for standing up. While she appreciated the support, it also reminded her of the weight she now carried. Every decision she made, every word she spoke felt like it mattered more than ever. She knew she couldn't let people down, not after they'd rallied behind her so fiercely. One evening, as she sat in her living room scrolling through messages from supporters, Selena reflected on everything that had happened. Her dream of owning a luxury car had come true, but not in the way she'd imagined. Instead of simply driving off in a Mercedes-Benz, she'd sparked a movement that reached far beyond herself. People saw her as a symbol of resilience, courage, and hope. And while she still felt moments of doubt, she couldn't deny the impact she'd made. Her phone buzzed with another notification. This time, it was a message from the tech billionaire. "You've done something incredible," he wrote. "But remember, you're allowed to take a breath. You've earned it." Selena smiled softly, putting her phone aside. He was right. She had fought hard, not just for herself, but for everyone who deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. And now, sitting in her home surrounded by reminders of her journey, she finally allowed herself to feel proud. Months had passed since the chaos at Prestige Motors, but the ripple effects of that day continued to shape lives. Not just Selena's, but countless others who had been inspired by her courage. The dealership itself was barely recognizable. Now, gone were the days of dismissive salespeople and unwelcoming vibes. In their place stood a transformed environment, one where customers felt valued regardless of their appearance or background. The walls inside the showroom still gleamed with luxury cars, but the real shine came from the new culture being built, one rooted in respect, accountability, and inclusivity. Selena hadn't stepped foot back into the dealership after that fateful visit, not because she didn't want to, but because she no longer needed to. Her dream car? She got it, but not from Prestige Motors. The tech billionaire gifted her the Rolls-Royce Phantom outright, insisting it was hers to keep as a token of gratitude for inspiring change. At first, Selena hesitated, feeling uncomfortable accepting such an extravagant gift. But when he explained that it wasn't just for her, it was a symbol of progress and resilience, she accepted it with pride. Now every time she slid behind the wheel, she remembered how far she'd come and how much power there was in standing up for yourself. The scholarship fund she helped create became her biggest passion project. It wasn't just about handing out money. It was about empowering people who looked like her, who came from similar backgrounds, to chase dreams they might have thought were out of reach. One recipient, a young woman named Maya, shared her story during the program's launch event. Growing up in a low-income neighborhood, Maya had always dreamed of becoming an automotive engineer but never believed it was possible. Thanks to the scholarship, she enrolled in a prestigious university determined to break barriers and inspire others along the way. Hearing Maya speak brought tears to Selena's eyes. It reminded her why all of this mattered so deeply. As word spread about the changes happening at Prestige Motors, other companies began taking notice. Executives from rival dealerships reached out, asking for advice on how to implement similar reforms within their own organizations. Diversity consultants started using Selena's story as a case study, teaching businesses across industries about the importance of inclusion and fairness. What began as one woman's fight against prejudice turned into a blueprint for systemic change, a movement that showed what could happen when voices united to demand better. But life wasn't all victories and milestones for Selena. With great influence came great responsibility, and balancing her newfound role as an advocate with her personal life proved challenging. Some days, she felt overwhelmed by the weight of expectations. Strangers would stop her in public, pouring out their own stories of discrimination and heartbreak, hoping she could fix things for them too. While she wanted to help everyone, she knew she couldn't carry the burden alone. So she leaned on her support system, family, friends, and mentors, who reminded her that even superheroes needed rest. Her beauty empire thrived more than ever before, thanks in part to the increased visibility she gained from the ordeal. Customers flooded her online store, eager to support a brand associated with strength and resilience. Social media followers doubled, tripled, then quadrupled as people tuned in not just for makeup tips, but for inspiration. Selena used her platform wisely, sharing motivational posts, amplifying underrepresented voices, and calling out injustices whenever she saw them. She became more than an entrepreneur, she became a beacon of hope. One evening, as she sat on her balcony watching the sunset, Selena reflected on everything she'd been through. The humiliation at the dealership, the viral post, the protests, the lawsuit. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle coming together to form something bigger than herself. She realized that while karma had delivered justice in spades, the true reward wasn't revenge or material success. It was knowing she'd made a difference. Her phone buzzed with a message from the tech billionaire. "Still proud of you," it read simply. Selena smiled, typing back a quick "thank you." Then she set her phone aside, letting the moment sink in. Life had thrown its share of challenges her way, but she'd faced each one head-on, refusing to let anyone dim her light. And now, sitting in peace with the hum of the city below, she finally allowed herself to exhale, to celebrate not just what she'd achieved, but who she'd become. Karma may have arrived in style, rolling in on new four wheels and turning heads wherever it went. But for Selena, the real victory wasn't the car or the fame. It was the knowledge that she'd stood tall when it mattered most, and in doing so, she'd shown the world exactly what respect looked like. As time went on, Selena's story became more than just a tale of personal triumph. It grew into a legacy. People didn't just remember her for the Rolls-Royce or the viral post. They remembered her for the courage she showed in standing up to injustice. Her journey reminded everyone that no matter how hard life pushed you down, there was always a way to rise again, and sometimes rising meant taking others with you. The scholarship fund she helped create blossomed into something extraordinary. By the end of its first year, dozens of aspiring entrepreneurs and innovators had received financial support, mentorship, and opportunities they never thought possible. Among them was a young man who dreamed of designing eco-friendly vehicles. With the help of the program, he secured an internship at a major automotive company, where his ideas for sustainable car technology caught the attention of industry leaders. Another recipient, a single mother juggling 2 jobs while studying engineering, graduated at the top of her class and landed a job at a prestigious firm. These stories poured in regularly, each one fueling Selena's belief that change wasn't just possible, it was happening. Prestige Motors, too, underwent a transformation that extended beyond surface-level fixes. The dealership became a model for inclusivity, hosting community events and workshops aimed at breaking down barriers between businesses and underrepresented groups. Employees were trained not just to sell cars, but to connect with customers as human beings. Slowly but surely, trust began to rebuild. Customers who once vowed never to return found themselves welcomed with open arms, and many walked away not only with new vehicles, but also with restored faith in humanity. For Selena, life settled into a rhythm that balanced purpose with peace. She continued running her beauty empire, which flourished under her leadership. But now it wasn't just about selling products. It was about empowering women to feel confident and unstoppable. Her brand launched campaigns celebrating diversity, featuring models of all shapes, sizes, and backgrounds. Every ad carried a message: "You are enough." It resonated deeply with her audience, turning her business into more than just a source of income. It became a movement. Still, Selena made sure to carve out moments for herself. Fame had brought incredible opportunities, but it had also taught her the importance of staying grounded. She spent weekends gardening, cooking meals for loved ones, and indulging in quiet mornings with coffee and books. Those small rituals kept her centered, reminding her that even superheroes needed downtime. One day, while scrolling through Instagram, Selena stumbled upon a video posted by someone she didn't recognize. In it, a young girl stood beside a shiny red convertible beaming with pride. The caption read, "Today I bought my first car because of you. Your story gave me the strength to believe I could do anything. Thank you." Tears welled up in Selena's eyes as she watched the clip over and over again. This was why she'd fought so hard. Not for revenge, not for recognition, but for moments like this. Knowing she'd inspired even one person to chase their dreams made every struggle worth it. Her bond with the tech billionaire deepened as well. Though their partnership started with a simple act of kindness, a gifted Rolls-Royce, it evolved into a lifelong friendship built on mutual respect and shared values. Together, they brainstormed new ways to tackle systemic issues, investing in programs that addressed education gaps, economic inequality, and social justice. Their collaboration proved that when people united around a common goal, real change could happen. Looking back on everything, Selena realized the true power of her story lay not in the dramatic showdown at the dealership, but in the lives it touched afterward. Karma hadn't just rolled in on four wheels. It had sparked a chain reaction, inspiring countless others to demand better for themselves and their communities. And while she knew the fight against prejudice was far from over, she felt hopeful. Hopeful because she'd seen what was possible when people refused to stay silent. On a sunny afternoon, Selena took her Rolls-Royce out for a drive, cruising through Atlanta streets lined with trees and laughter. As she passed familiar landmarks, the bustling markets, the quiet parks, the towering skyscrapers, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Life hadn't been easy, but it had been beautiful. Every challenge, every victory, every tear had shaped her into the woman she was today. Resilient, compassionate, and unapologetically herself. When she parked the car and stepped out, she paused, for a moment, looking at its gleaming exterior. It wasn't just a luxury vehicle anymore. It was a symbol of resilience, a reminder that justice could arrive in unexpected ways. Smiling softly, Selena whispered to herself, "Karma really does roll in style."